The MAC was a very difficult conference to predict this year. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. First off, the conference really just isn't that good. It's a very weak conference. Only a handful of teams that can truly compete for a conference title. And we know that midweek action, anything can happen in this conference. Even the best of the best could lose on a random Tuesday night. But on top of that, this is, again, we mentioned a weak conference. It's also a very inexperienced conference. A lot of changes happening within the MAC as 6 of the 13 teams have a brand new head coach. So there's a lot of youth, there's a lot of inexperience, a lot of coaching turnover. It was very difficult to figure out how we wanted to predict these teams and where to have them in the conference standings. We did our best. I feel very confident about it. I feel very confident about the teams at the top especially. So let's go ahead and take a look. We've predicted every single team, every game for every MAC program, our projected standings. Here we go. We've got the Toledo Rockets and the Ohio Bobcats meeting in the MAC championship game. We'll share our winner of the MAC championship here in just a few minutes as we go through all these teams. But at the top of the standings, you do have, I think, 4 teams that are legitimate contenders in the MAC this year. And you can maybe mix Northern Illinois into that conversation as well. But one game separating Miami, Ohio from Toledo at the top. So we've got the Rockets going 7-1 in conference play, Ohio 7-1 in conference play, and they're behind them Buffalo and Miami, Ohio, both at 6-2. So one upset, a win from there for maybe creating a 3-way tie at the top, or maybe somehow jumping the standings to get into that championship game. So some true contenders, and everybody else, which we'll get to in a second, could struggle a little bit heading into 2025. But the Rockets, they're coming off of a disappointing 8-5 season last year. They're going to bounce back in a big way. This is one of the best teams in the entire group of 5. Tucker Gleason returns at quarterback. Not only has a solid arm, but is a little bit mobile as well. They have Chip Trainum transferring in, some stints throughout some power programs, most notably at Ohio State. I love their wide receiver core. Junior Vandeross is back after having over 950 reception yards last year with the Rockets. They also bring in Trayvon Rudolph, who transferred within the conference from Northern Illinois to Toledo, and Rudolph is a do-it-all player. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He's dangerous on special teams. That's a massive pickup. A 3-time All-MAC selection with the Huskies, now in the wide receiver corps for the Rockets. They've got a solid offensive line, always typically have a strong defense under Jason Candle. This is a dang good Toledo team that I honestly, at 10-2, 7-1, wouldn't be surprised to see them get to 11-1. They're going to slip up somewhere. They have 2 interesting games on the road at Kentucky, on the road at Washington State. I think they will win at least one of those. But 10-2 should be back in the MAC championship after missing out the last couple of years. Ohio, right behind them, they won the MAC last year. Ohio won the MAC for the first time since 1968. Finally got over the hump and did it. They've been in championship games before, just never could find a way to win it. They did it last year going 11-3, but now they lose their head coach, Tim Albin. He's off to Charlotte, but they promoted from within, bringing Brian Smith in as head coach, taking him from offensive coordinator to the head coaching position. Despite the loss of the head coach and despite so many losses on both sides of the ball, the Bobcats are going to be just fine. They have a dangerous dual-threat quarterback in Parker Navarro, who had over 1,000 rushing yards last year with the Bobcats and 18 rushing touchdowns. Zaya Bangura returns to Ohio, transferred out a couple years ago, but rushed for nearly 2,000 yards between 2022 and 2023 with the Bobcats. So he returns. 3 of their top 4 pass catchers return. 3 starters are back on defense, which isn't a lot, but I do expect this to be still a pretty stingy defense for Ohio that only gave up 18 points per game last year. Ohio's in a very good shape. They have a tough non-conference slate at Rutgers, West Virginia, at Ohio State, but even with a poor start there, should be able to run through most of their conference slate and I think get back to the MAC championship game. Buffalo, that's the team you don't need to sleep on. They went 8-4 in the regular season last year, then won their bowl game. So a 9-win season for Pete Limbo in his first year there. Now they've got 16 starters back. This is a dangerous Buffalo team, and it would not surprise me to see them go to the MAC championship instead of a team like Ohio. You've got Taquan Roberson transferring in at quarterback, a dangerous dual-threat quarterback there as well. A 1,000-yard rusher in Al-Jay Henderson returns. They've got 9 starters back on the defensive side of the ball, including 7 of their top 9 tacklers from last year. Some interesting games, though, but they host UConn. They play Miami, Ohio, and regular Ohio, all at home. So UConn, Miami, Ohio, and Ohio all have to go to Buffalo, some of the biggest games of the year for them on their home turf. I really, really like this Buffalo team. Exceeded expectations drastically in 2024 and should be even better in 2025. We got them at 9-3, but they fall short of the MAC championship at 6-2. Miami, Ohio, 7-5. That doesn't seem like a good record, but again, they've got a very tough non-conference. They have to go on the road to Wisconsin, on the road to Rutgers. Then they play UNLV at home. And then in conference play, they have to go on the road to Northern Illinois, on the road to Ohio, on the road to Buffalo, and they host Toledo. So they have one of the most difficult schedules in the entire conference. But Chuck Martin always does a very good job with this program. And keep in mind, the Redhawks last year started 0-3 and bounced back in a big way, finishing 9-5 as the MAC runner-up. So even if they struggle in non-conference play, as many of these MAC teams probably will, it's what happens in conference play that truly matters. But this is a team that adds DeQuan Finn at quarterback. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was a stud during his time with Toledo. Tried his hand at the power program with Baylor, didn't pan out very well. Now he's back in the MAC, this time with Miami, Ohio. So he returns at quarterback, or comes in at quarterback, gives his offense an immediate boost after losing so much. 5 starters back on defense. They, of course, will lose their leader in Matt Salopek, but should remain very strong after giving up just 19 points per game last year, 18.8 to be specific. But this is a very good Miami, Ohio team. Chuck Martin always getting the most out of his program. Think they'll be just fine. Northern Illinois, that last team there that we actually have going bowling. We only have 5 teams in the MAC going bowling, which to me did seem low. But that's because there's so many unknowns for the remaining 8 teams. And really, it's not that far off either. Last year, the MAC had 7 of their 12 members going bowling. 7 of 12 went bowling. This year, we expect 5 of 13. So not horribly far off. Might be able to see 6 of them go bowling, but again, it's a very weak conference. Northern Illinois, they stunned the nation last year with that upset win over Notre Dame, but didn't amount to too much. They still just went 8-5, but did win their bowl game. Thomas Hammock, I think, doing a phenomenal job, though, with this program. He's been there for, I think, entering his 7th year now, and continues to do a very good job with the Huskies. Josh Holst is in at quarterback, but they now lose their top 8 tacklers on defense and all of their top pass catchers. So I am concerned about Northern Illinois in that aspect. Good year last year, a lot of inexperience now with a fairly tough schedule at Maryland, at Mississippi State. San Diego State will be an interesting non-conference game. On the road at Ohio, on the road at Toledo. I don't expect Northern Illinois to replicate last year's success, but Hammock should be able to get them back to a bowl game. 6-6, 5-3. Then after that, it just kind of all falls apart for the MAC here. The rest of the teams, and I always even say the rest of the teams, I think Western Michigan, Central Michigan, and Eastern Michigan are probably the 3, all the Michigan teams are the ones that could flirt with a bowl game. Those are the ones that we have missing out that I would not be surprised maybe slightly get over the hump and get to the postseason. You look at Western Michigan. They went 6-6 in the regular season last year and lost their bowl games. They went 6-7. We've got them at 5-7. A lot of it's going to pan out to see how Brody Jones, the transfer quarterback from the JUCO League, down from junior college, he threw for over 4,400 yards and 44 touchdowns last year at JUCO, so that's pretty good. He comes in. How quickly does he adjust to life at the D1 level, at the FBS level? They've got Jalen Buckley returning at running back, which is a huge addition or return for them. They do have to go on the road to Northern Illinois and Miami, Ohio, and they draw Toledo and then Normal, Ohio, both at home. So a tough schedule for the Broncos, but I could see them flirting with bowl eligibility just like they did last year. Really, just, again, comes down to how quickly that defense can be fixed and how quickly Jones comes in at quarterback, how quickly he adjusts to life at the FBS level. Central Michigan, the same way. They've got a new head coach, Matt Drinkle, who was the offensive line coach at Army, so an interesting hire for the Chippewas here. I like Joey Labus at quarterback. I think, another year for him is going to serve this offense well. He was mediocre last year, wasn't all that great. I think he takes a decent step forward now in 2025. They do return 7 starters on defense. They should be better on that side of the ball after giving up nearly 30 points per game. Drinkle's going to have this team trying to play very physical up front. I mean, he was offensive line coach at Army. We saw how well that panned out. He's going to have this team tough in the trenches. It's just a matter of will it happen in year 1. But I will say this about Central Michigan. Their schedule's not that brutal. I look at it, they got Wagner, Akron, UMass, and Kent State. They're probably going to win all 4 of those games, you would argue. So if they can just win those 4 games, they just need 2 more wins to go to a bowl game. I don't think they're able to get it because some of those other games are against tough non-conference teams or the better teams in the MAC. But we've got them at 5-7, meaning they're 1 upset away from getting to a postseason game or a bowl game in year 1 under Drinkle, which would be very impressive. Eastern Michigan, I hate having them so low. I have a little bit of a soft spot for Eastern Michigan. I love what Chris Creighton's done with this program, and a team that historically has been so bad, but he's gotten them pretty continuously over the last few years into the postseason. So it feels weird having them at 4-8, especially last year when they went 5-7 and saw their 3-year bowl streak come to an end. So typically I would pick a team like that to bounce back. Not this year though. The Eagles do add Noah Kim in at quarterback from Coastal Carolina. They do return their top receiver from last year and Terry Lockett, but they only have 3 starters back on defense, a defense that really wasn't all that good last year. And then you look at the schedule. At Texas State, at Kentucky. Louisiana, all in the non-conference, and then at Buffalo, at Miami, Ohio, Northern Illinois, Ohio. So a very tough MAC schedule, not a very good non-conference schedule either. It's going to take some pretty big upsets, I think, for Eastern Michigan to reach the postseason. Maybe you get to 5-7, but I think they fall short again, 4-8 for the Eagles, which would be a very disappointing year for them. Bowling Green, this is an interesting team. Eddie George is the new head coach for the Falcons. He actually did a decent job kind of reviving a Tennessee State program that was really, really bad. And Eddie George kind of came in there, legendary running back as we know, doing a decent job at that FCS level. Now you look at Bowling Green this year, they went 7-6 in 2024, which was a great year. They're going to take that step back because now they're one of the most inexperienced teams in the country. All the guys that helped them have that couple-year bowl streak and a winning season last year, they're all gone. Their quarterback's gone. Harold Fannin is gone. He was an absolute stud. So they lose their quarterback. They lose their top 4 rushers. They lose their top 4 pass catchers. They lose 11 of their top 12 tacklers. They do bring in Notre Dame quarterback Drew Pine, so that gives them a little bit of experience there, which is great, but that's not going to be enough to get them to the postseason. With a new head coach and so much inexperience on both sides of the ball, I think the Falcons struggle a little bit. Got them at 4-8, but 3-5 in conference play. Same can be said for Akron at 4-8, which for the Zips, that's actually a decent year, right? I'd love to see him go to a bowl game. Joe Moorhead was tasked with the very difficult job of trying to rebuild this Zips program. They went 4-8 last year, got out the same record this year. I like Ben Finley a lot at quarterback. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks, and that's not saying too much, but one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC this year. Threw for over 2,600 yards and 16 touchdowns, but the Zips have to improve defensively. They gave up over 32 points per game last year. And now they've got a brutal schedule, a non-conference game at Nebraska, at Buffalo, at Toledo. They play Miami, Ohio at home. Akron's not to the point yet of beating the top dogs in the conference, although they did beat Toledo in last year's season finale, so give them props for that. But they're not to the point of consistently competing with the best teams in the league. They should be able to win against some of the weaker teams that we're about to talk about, but I just don't think it's enough to get to that 5-win mark. Definitely not enough to go bowling this year. Akron, though, more competitive, but remain at 4-8. Then Ball State, UMass, Kent State, all in the bottom, little bit of the MAC here. Ball State has a new head coach of themselves, Mike Yurimovich, who comes in from Butler to take over this Cardinals program. They've only got 7 starters back, and Ball State needs massive reworking on the defensive side of the ball, where they gave up over 40 points per game last year. Over 40 points per game, and that's not going to be a quick fix, especially with non-conference games at Purdue and Auburn, on the road at UConn as well, and they draw all the top teams in the MAC. Ohio, Northern Illinois, Toledo, Miami, Ohio. Ball State plays them all. Not seeing many wins on the schedule for the Cardinals, especially with so much inexperience and a new head coach. 3-9, 2-6. UMass rejoins the MAC. They left in 2015. Now they're back in the conference. I've also got a soft spot for the Minutemen. I actually started a dynasty with them on the new college football video game because they've been so bad. Since UMass joined the FBS, the Minutemen are 26-122. They have 26 wins since joining the FBS. And they are now rejoining the MAC for the first time since 2015. Left to become an independent, now they're back. And I've got them at 3-9, 2-6, which, for UMass might be a decent year. They went 2-10 last year, so I think they improve on last year's total. They've got a new head coach in Joe Harasimiak. I actually think it's a really good hire. I think he's going to do well here by UMass standards, but it's going to take time. First year, now in a conference, with a lot of inexperience. I like Brandon Rose at quarterback, transferring in from Utah. That's a big pickup. 2 of their top 3 pass catchers returned. That's good. So a little bit of experience on offense. UMass was more competitive last year than people want to give them credit for. They only had 3 one-possession losses in a 2-win season, so easily could have been a 5-win team. I think UMass is competitive again this year, but again, not going to translate to a lot of wins. 3-9 for them, and then the same can be said for Kent State. The Golden Flashes went 0-12 in 2024. 0-12 in 2024. The year prior, they won 1 game. This year, we expect the same. They will win 1 game, but they will go winless in conference play. Matt Carney tasked with a very difficult job with arguably the worst program in the entire FBS. They averaged 13.9 points per game on offense last year. They gave up 44.1 points per game on defense last year. They lost all but 2 games last year by double digits. They were outgained by an average of 283 yards per game last year. This Kent State team just doesn't have it. It's going to take a long time to rebuild this program. They're going to struggle mightily again this year. We got them at 1-11, which would mean in the last 3 years, Kent State will have won 2 games. 2 games in 3 years. got a long way to go. All that being said, the MAC championship game. Two powers, Ohio versus Toledo. Ohio versus Toledo. Ohio won their first championship since 1968. They're looking to repeat. Toledo has been a perennial power within the MAC, but has not won the conference since 2022. So a very small gap for them. Couple down years for Toledo. I'm going to tell you right now, I think the Rockets reclaim the league. This, to me, is by and large the best team in the conference this year. They have a veteran quarterback, veteran running back, veteran receivers, veteran head coach, veteran defense. They are the most experienced team, I think, in the MAC. They are probably the most talented team in the MAC. This is a team that's not afraid of anybody or anything. 8-5 last year, but did go on the road, destroy an SEC team, Mississippi State. They maybe could do the same in week 1 against Kentucky. But regardless, this Toledo team has everything you would expect for a team that can win a conference championship. I just don't think Ohio, with a brand new head coach and maybe a few questions on defense, is going to have enough to slow down Toledo for an entire 60 minutes in the championship game. I do think it's close. But the Toledo defense forces Ohio to win the game through the air. They are unable to do that. And the Rockets finished the year at 11-2, reclaiming the MAC for the first time since 2022. Unfortunately, not going to be good enough to get them a group of 5 spot in the playoffs because they would have 2 losses. But all that being said, I am predicting Toledo to win the conference. If they go 11-1 or undefeated and then win this, they would be a legitimate consideration, a legitimate contender for that playoff spot. Do not sleep on the Rockets, our pick to win the MAC in 2025. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers every single year. Do not miss out on that. Become a member of our GE Nation, as well as signing up for our weekly newsletters over on thegridironexpert.com. All that there for you to enjoy this football season. We're right around the corner. It's going to be here next week. You do not want to miss out on it. Go sign up today. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.